Right, lads, what's going on? Thought I'd do a session brief whilst I'm doing me 5 minutes of cardio just to get warm, because all of my British friends will realise that it's absolutely fucking freezing at the minute. So that requires, when you train in a strongman gym without heating or insulation, to do cardio at the start of every session to get warm. But yeah, I've got a proper microphone, as you can see. I've got a new phone, so it's a good YouTube setup. So who knows? I'm starting a series of, I'm not sure what I'm going to call it yet, maybe training to be Britain's strongest man. Training to become Britain's strongest man. Episode 1, either way. And we'll get past episode 1 this time, hopefully, because I'm feeling a bit more dedicated to the idea of trying to put myself out there a little bit more, if I can. Because whenever I do, people seem quite pleased about it. I'm kind of a person who probably thinks that the only thing that people want to see from me, which is probably true as well, is me lifting big weights. But if I can show you a little bit of who I am, and you can love me or hate me, and I can lift weights, which is about the only thing I'm good at, then who knows, maybe I can be like one of my many strongman friends who actually has a thriving life outside of just lifting heavy circles or rocks or sandbags. And I will be able to pay for surgeries without putting myself in horrendous amounts of debt in future by just being able to pay for them up front, which is a slightly less optimistic view, but we will see. So I've got about 6 deadlift sessions left before Britain's strongest man. I've been doing a lot of stiff bar beltless work. Basically, the reason behind that is, if I get too specific too soon, I just start snatching tendons off my body. So I'm trying to use variations where load is limited, but obviously you can still work to a relatively high intensity, so close to failure, but obviously load's limited via the difficulty of the exercise, not via the absolute weight, obviously. So I've got 3 sets of 5 on 310 kilos today on the stiff bar beltless deadlift work, and I've got some accessories and RDLs and things like that. So I'll take you through the paces a bit. You can see how we get on. So yeah, I've just come fresh off about 6 days off the gym because I had a really good last block after Glasgow. And something that I've adopted kind of before Britain's as kind of a mentality mindset is I felt like, and I can be wrong about this, and I'm sure the lads will watch this and be happy to prove me wrong in a few weeks, a few months' time, if I am wrong. But I believe in the shape I was in at Glasgow, if I showed up to Britain's in that shape with the events that we've got, I'd win. So it's not about surviving. I'm still training hard, but I'm training a lot smarter, and I'm giving my body the rest it needs, and I'm not overdoing things. I can already feel, with just 1 block on from Glasgow, how much stronger I've got. So that bodes well for a good performance at Britain's. So yeah, basically the goal is to not get injured, and I should do all right, because Britain's is a bit of a bogey comp for me. A couple of years ago when I was supposed to be doing it, I tore my lat off 9 days before. And then this year, 2024, when I was feeling in really good shape for it to do it, I tore my proximal hamstring off, obviously. So yeah, I'm not sandbagging training, but I'm being sensible knowing that if I get there, there's a high likelihood that I believe I'll win. So just keeping that in mind with the training, really. But yeah, I feel like a bit of a demon, to be honest. So yeah, I find myself trying to hold myself back more than pushing at the minute, to be honest. Hence, just coming off 6 days off. So yeah, we'll get stuck in. Welcome. Oh, bloody hell. So basically, the goal of this pre-deadlift movement prep for me, I'm just someone who has a significant anterior chain bias, really. So basically all the muscles on the front of my body, that's your anterior chain, are very, very, very strong. and very dominant. Probably because of my powerlifting days, I basically was just a pair of quads. And then obviously all my pecs and shoulders and stuff as well are very strong. The limiting factor for me is my posterior chain. So basically all the muscles that make up the chain of muscles on the back side of your body, that's your posterior chain. So I have a tendency for all of the muscles on the front of my body, my anterior chain, to get very short and very tight, probably because they're overactive. And then kind of from an injury perspective, I do tend to always tear the muscles on the back side of my body. Obviously, I've torn my lat, I've torn my hamstring, bicep. Every strong man tears a bicep, really. So this movement prep stuff more for me is about that GHD sit up there where I'm kind of touching the floor. I feel that stretch really through my entire anterior chain, so it's like a very aggressive ab stretch. I feel it through the front of my hips as well. I tend to get very tight hips, especially on my left side, because my glutes are a bit weak, which is what this is aiming at targeting. Obviously the clamshells on my left side about activating my glute, and then this glute bridge is about trying to get that last little bit of hip extension that I struggle to get usually, because my left hip is so tight that my left quad, my left hip flexor I struggle to get into that end range squeeze with kind of hip extension, my glute coming through. So this is working on that, and then after this I've got some GHD back extension ISO, which is, again, it's more of a neural priming thing, getting the muscles on the backside of my body to fire. Things like isometrics are really good for that. So if you've had a surgery or you've got an injury, as well as for tendons, but just muscles that are underactive and struggle to fire, if you do some isometric work, you saw when I was doing the clamshells, I did like a set of 20 to get a pump and kind of get a feel of the muscle, and then on the last set I hit a isometric hold to really kind of just get into that glute mentally, is a good way of putting it. So yeah, my glutes feel absolutely toast now. Fucking big body life. So a skill that I'm starting to blend into my warm-ups now, obviously we've got the deadlift ladder coming up at Britain's Strongest Man. So on my warm-up sets, I'm going to start phasing this in over the next over the remaining deadlift sessions until I do some actual ladder work, is a few steps in, quick strap. I'll do my top sets at the minute with my normal straps on, but if I can start getting the reps in now, to me, when you see people like Bishop who do really well on the deadlift ladders, strapping up for every single one, obviously doing it mixed grip isn't something that I'm willing to risk anymore. Obviously with tearing my lat off last time, doing it mixed grip, and then also my left bicep, I've had 2 surgeries on, obviously. So I'm not willing to risk it, but I think Bish is an example that you don't need to do it without straps in order to, you know, no one in the world's beaten Bish on a deadlift ladder, and I think that's just because he's not stupid enough to realise that you can just practice it and then get better at it. It's amazing, actually, when Bishop did that run in 2023, how many people haven't looked at that and then gone, oh, I'll do that. They just continue to do it like fucking idiots, basically, which, yeah, I'm not really sure the reason behind that, but that's the first few warm-ups you're going to see, probably up to 270 area today. I'm going to run in and start getting used to that. So starting at 70 now. That's beltless stiff bar deadlifts done. It's probably a cheap PB of sort. To be fair, that 310 for 3 sets of 5 felt good as well. So my deadlift's definitely coming back. I definitely think that in 2025 I'll exceed my previous deadlift strength, which was obviously one of my best events in strongman, to be honest. But yeah, my body feels absolutely fantastic. It feels even better than it probably felt pre all the injuries in 2021 because I ran myself into the ground so much. That was no fault on Shane's behalf. That was up to me being a maniac because unfortunately when you're the temperament of someone like me, which is, I'd say most people who do strongman, but I think I'm even an outlier amongst my peers in strongman, to be honest. You kind of test the ceiling a little bit too much, and I don't learn lessons very easily. And unfortunately, you don't know where your ceiling is unless you test it. What's the saying? It's like, only those willing to risk going too far will ever kind of know how far you can possibly go. I think that's a saying, isn't it? Unless I've just fucking butchered it. Either way. But we're moving on to stiff leg deadlifts now. I've got a set at 230 and 250. So it's basically just more posterior chain annihilation. It's a real weak point of mine that I'm trying to bring up. And I think actually bringing that up is the reason that my deadlift's coming back. And hopefully the disparity between my anterior chain and my posterior chain reducing means that I'm less prone to injury because obviously I'm going to not be biased in one way of lifting completely. I can kind of do it all. That's all I'm trying to do really at the minute is kind of any weak links in my body, just eradicate them completely so there's not a range or a plane of movement that I feel particularly unsafe in, which I'm getting there, to be honest, and I feel good. So yeah, we'll keep going. We'll get stuck in now. Yeah, something that I've become super mindful of. I had to actually do it a little bit there, which is what brought it up. I think a lot of people on hinge patterns, myself included, until I became aware of it, actually have a tendency to kind of over supinate their foot. So you'll see some people when they deadlift, they kind of roll onto the outside edge of their foot and they lose that kind of like big toe ball of your foot pressure, especially on really aggressive hinge patterns like RDLs and stiff legs and things like that. Good mornings. So I think trying to pronate your foot a little bit more, which means turning your foot towards the floor, towards your big toe, like this, and keeping that big toe pressure, means that your glute and your hamstring kind of work with synergy together, rather than it being a little bit more exclusively one. I feel a lot more, I can feel my glute being challenged a lot more, especially on my left side with this weak glute, when I keep my big toe down on that left side. So yes, maybe a little nugget that you can employ with your training so that you don't end up with 400 scars all over your body like me. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? More about, huh? 3 seconds. You can calling me out. God, my grip is strong as fuck. Right, lads and ladies, that's the session done. Another day, another dollar. Finished off there with some suitcase deadlifts and some behind the back holds for grip. Went up to 135 on the suitcase deadlifts. They're really helping kind of my lower back health at the minute. They're really good. And then on the behind the back holds, I did 160, 150, 140 for 45 seconds. So descending weight. I've been doing the same weight on them the last few weeks. So obviously, like going a little bit heavier, I'm having to kind of do it in a different order, and I'm assuming next week it'll be maybe a couple of sets at 150, one at 160. But yeah, the weather is absolutely horror, as you can see. Welcome to British winter time. But yeah, wrap it up. If you like the video, leave a comment so that I've got a reason to do this again, and I hope you've enjoyed. And yeah, I think you'll be seeing me a little bit more frequently, so I'll see you in the next one, episode 2, Britain's Strongest Man. I'm coming for you.